Hi and welcome back to That Office Guy. My name is Nick and today I'm going to show you guys my top tips for Microsoft Teams in 2021. If you find this useful and informative, do go ahead and click that like button for me, and if you're new to the channel, do subscribe. By subscribing you will be kept up to date with all of the videos that we do here at That Office Guy. And with all that said, let's jump on over to the desktop and take a look at these top tips for Microsoft Teams. Fantastic. So here we are on my That Office Guy channel, team and general channel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some of the top tips for Microsoft Teams entering into 2021. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is a new feature that's actually been launched within Microsoft Teams, and that is the ability to now pin a post, right? So straight away, when you have a lot of posts happening here inside one of your channels, and you want to make sure that one is always kind of seen, you can go ahead and pin it, right? So I'm going to go ahead and find this test email. I'm going to click on the ellipses in the top right hand side of this particular post, and I'm going to go ahead and pin this post, right? It'll pop up with this message asking me whether I'd like to pin this message. The message will be pinned for everyone who views the channel. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and basically click pin. And now this is a pinned message that everyone can now see within the channel. It's a really useful feature by Microsoft Teams here. So when someone new comes to this channel, this is what they'll see at the top of the screen. Really useful feature. So the next tip I'm going to talk about is going to be your message and your new conversations, right? So this can either apply to your chat feeds or into your team channels themselves. So I'm going to click on new conversation. And what you have is this little bar appear at the bottom here where you would normally type your message, right? And you could mention people, all that kind of stuff. However, there's a little format button here, this little A with a pencil next to it. If you click that, it'll actually expand this into a proper dialog box to a degree where you can actually give it a title or a subject and start typing your conversation in the post section. Now, when you have this activated, you don't have to worry about pressing enter or shift enter to enter a new paragraph. You can just type as if it were like a Word document using the return to basically enter new lines as needed. And the benefit to this is obviously it means that you'll be able to create one solid communication rather than a broken feed of messages, right? So sometimes what you find is when you hit enter, you accidentally send a message. By using this particular function, you won't have to worry about that at all. You can go ahead and type your message, hit the return button, and it will just enter a new line. And once you're finished with there, you can click the send button, and that will basically allow you to ultimately send the message without worrying whether or not you're going to have a broken communication. So it's a really useful feature. The other features that you get here is you have the ability to say it's a communication or an announcement, which is also very handy. You can obviously have this so that only moderators and yourself can reply rather than everyone, and you can post it into multiple channels. So it's a really useful way of having communications inside your posts. The same thing applies to your chat messages as well. So if I come ahead and find a message here that I've been sending to Chris, for example, if I hit this A button at the bottom here, I get the same abilities, right? Where I can change all the formatting, etc. And I don't have to worry about using the return button to send the message. I can basically send the message once I am ready to do so. So that is really useful. One of the other features that you get from this area here is the delivery option. Here you can see it's set to standard by default, but you can make this an important message or an urgent message. So if it was an important message, this would be basically putting the exclamation mark next to the message. People know that it's an important message that they should be reading. The urgent message, on the other hand, sends a notification every 2 minutes for 20 minutes, so a total of 10 notifications. That will be sent to the person that you're communicating with or the group that you're communicating with. This is a really good way to ensure that they get the message, that there's an urgent message for them to read, and it basically really does highlight the fact that it is urgent. Now this one is something you would use with caution. You only want to make sure you're using it when it's absolutely necessary. Otherwise, the important feed here, this message feed, status is a very useful one. Makes sure that people know it's an important message, and only tend to use the urgent when absolutely required. And there's a whole host of other functions there as well. So that was the second tip for you guys. The next tip I have really talks about multi-channel posting. So for example, I can send a communication across multiple teams and multiple channels all within one post, right? So I can come here, I set this to an announcement, and then I can click on the post to multiple channels. Posting to multiple channels allows us to then select multiple channels, and from here I can choose any of our communication channels and basically across teams send the one single communication to them all. This is a really useful feature that basically allows us to communicate more effectively and efficiently across multiple different teams and different channels. And obviously when you have it as an announcement like this, you can add a photo or change the color of the image background here. However you would like. You can give it a headline, you can give it a subheading, and you can give it the actual communication message there. So lots of additional functions that you get here. And I use multi-channel posting regularly. I find it's a really useful function within Microsoft Teams. The next tip that I have for you guys is all about files and file structures. So, from any of our channels here, we can go ahead and we can go and investigate our Files tab. Now, the Files tab is linked directly into our Microsoft SharePoint, okay, our SharePoint site. And basically from there, you'll be able to synchronize the files and folder structure into your File Explorer. This is something that I find really useful to do. And I have a tutorial all about this. So do check out, my channel, figure out, and find the particular channel. I'll try to link it into this video for you guys as well. Which goes through how to set up a synchronized SharePoint site with your File Explorer. So you do not have to use the files inside Microsoft Teams. Instead, you could use your File Explorer that's built into a Windows 10. And basically, it makes it a little bit easier to navigate all of the files that are hosted inside Microsoft Teams. And the channels names and the team names are the folder structures that are automatically created inside SharePoint. So really useful to understand. And personally, I make sure that I synchronize everything into my File Explorer because it makes it so much more easy and efficient to use. Okay, the next tip that I want to talk to you guys about is all about tasks by planner. And this is a really useful application that's kind of been updated in the coming weeks or past weeks and still is going to be updated going forward as well. Now, tasks by planner used to just be called planner, and basically this new version of it basically encompasses all of your planner tasks and your to-do tasks. And this is really important to understand because your to-do tasks are also integrated into Outlook. So you can easily create tasks from Outlook and have them appearing inside your Microsoft Teams application. Inside this app, you obviously have to add it separately. So if you do not have it installed already, you go over to the more options here and just go in and type planner. And you'll find tasks by planner, right? And you want to make sure that that's installed by clicking it and then loading it up. You can also pin it here by clicking the pin button or unpin. So it's really useful to have it inside your app bar. With that installed and obviously ready to go, you have several different things here. So on the left-hand side, you have tasks, important, planned, and assigned to me. Then you have a list of your planner plans, right? So I only have one for this particular site that I'm on. But basically, you'd have a list of all of your plans down here as well if you wanted to see them. Tasks are obviously your to-do tasks, right? Or your Outlook tasks, which are basically to-do tasks. So if you're using the To-Do app or you're using Outlook tasks, then they will actually appear here, right? So these will be a list of all of your tasks here. And you can assign them to people, you can make them important, you can do various different things, right? Your important tasks are any planned tasks or any to-do tasks that are marked as important, so you can see them all in one easy to locate area. And obviously you have various different filters as well where you can make it look like you're only looking for tasks that need to be done today, this week, next week, or whatever, right? So really useful. Planned are your planner tasks, so these are things that have been assigned to yourself, or tasks that you have a date for, and all that kind of thing. And then assigned to you are tasks that are specifically assigned to you as a user, and they would all be seen within here. Now, you do not have to use these planner area, but if you wanted to, you could drill down into the tasks specifically associated inside each plan. Now, obviously this will list all of the tasks and not just anything that's related to yourself, okay? So this is all about you, and this could be all about your team's work, okay? So a really useful app, and I highly do recommend that you guys start utilizing it. It's an incredibly useful application for Microsoft Teams. We'll just hop back on over to our team here in the general channel. One other thing that we want to talk about here is how you can integrate various different things into your teams, right? Such as polls using Microsoft Forms. And there's a couple of examples of why Microsoft Forms are incredibly useful for Microsoft Teams. So the first thing down here, if we wanted to start a new communication or a new post, obviously we have this, so I'm just going to delete this one for now. And we're going to click on a new conversation. This time we're going to click on the more options, and we're going to click on forms. By doing this, we're able to create a poll specifically inside our channel here, so we can ask a question and get people's feedback, right? And we can obviously have it as multiple answers, not multiple answers, share the results automatically, or whatever. So really useful. And what this does, it allows you to basically answer questions. The team can answer a question that you pose to them. So if you wanted to do a poll as to say which direction do you want a specific direction that you want the business to go in for whatever reason, then you could ask a question and get the answers from the team, and then you would have a clear direction as where to go. So really useful. That's one clear use case for Microsoft Forms inside Microsoft Teams. However, you can also go ahead and do things like this. I've added a holiday request using Microsoft Forms as well. I'm just going to go ahead and sign in. From here, you obviously be able to add, first name, last name, start date, end date, and all that kind of stuff. Have it picked up by Microsoft Power Automate, and then obviously feed it directly into something like a Microsoft Planner plan where you have planned holidays, right? So really useful feature for Microsoft Teams, and it's obviously embedded directly into Microsoft Teams here as a tab. So very, very useful stuff. And if I go to my test list, this is where I sent the holidays. You can see I have a holiday request here, and obviously went into an approval flow, all that kind of stuff, good stuff from Power Automate. So I did a video on that a couple of weeks ago. Do check that one out if you're interested in how to create holiday forms and approval flows within Microsoft Teams, Power Automate, and Microsoft Forms. Really useful to kind of get that kind of stuff going and up and running. The other thing we want to talk about is go over to our calendar section here. If we go ahead and create a new meeting, just a meet now button, for example, there's a new function here that I spoke about before, which allows you to basically configure everything you need before actually entering a meeting here. So you can go ahead and do custom audio, custom videos. You can set up a room or do not use audio at all of these good things, right? So you can set up everything before you actually go into a meeting, right? So that could be a virtual background. It could be that you want to use a different speaker or a different microphone or a different webcam for the particular meeting. If you wanted to use a room and you have rooms set up, you could go ahead and do that as well. So lots of really good new features that are coming into Microsoft Teams from these new features. I'm just going to close that down. And the next thing I want to talk about, guys, is actually your settings as well. So if we hop over to our avatar in the top right hand corner here, go over to settings, and from the settings section you have lots of different options here. What I'm going to talk about is a couple of features. One is a new feature under devices, which is called noise suppression, and this automatically cuts out all of your background noise. By default this is set to auto. However, you could also set this to high, low, or off depending on your requirements. So if you're finding that the automatic noise suppression isn't working, go ahead and set it to high. Obviously it will use higher amounts of CPU and RAM and all that kind of good stuff, so do make sure that you have a good enough computer, laptop, or whatever to process it. But ultimately it's a very useful feature to block out any background noise, and if so you find that actually it's preventing your laptop from working optimally, then you can turn it off altogether as needed. So that's a really good, useful feature. The other thing I want to talk about is under notifications is the email notifications. A lot of people have this set to like every hour. So every activity that happens inside Microsoft Teams, I think it was by default set to every hour. So I do highly recommend that everyone kind of switches that to daily, unless you need to have missed activity emails on an hourly basis. For me personally, it was overkill. I was inundated by far too many emails every single hour. So setting it to daily really helped cut down the email junk that I get sent from Microsoft Teams. There's obviously a whole host of other kind of notification settings that you can go through. I did a whole video on notifications. Do check that one out where I'll go into each of these areas in detail. And guys, that kind of brings an end to my top tips for Microsoft Teams inside 2021. Hopefully you guys found this useful. If you did, then definitely do go ahead and hit that like button for me. It really does mean a lot to the channel. And if there is anyone who is new to the channel who has not yet subscribed, do go ahead and subscribe. By subscribing, you will be kept up to date with all of the videos, hints and tips that we do here at That Office Guy. And hopefully guys, everyone has a fantastic 2021.